usually right wing, sometimes left wing. But I had 3 goals in 3 years, so I was not the great player people remember.
Were you going to go on to the NHL?
Everybody was good. Yeah. Everybody starts that way, but I had to settle for being Prime Minister. So
it's interesting. We had Nazem Kadri here just a short time ago.
We did.
You take a kid like Kadri, and you put him back 100 years.
Yeah.
You know, first of all, he's not going to get paid what he was paid. It was a completely different world.
Well, yes and no. If you put him back, 50 years, he was going to get paid almost nothing. But back in the period I'm looking at, pre-World War I, you actually had competition between professional leagues, and there were periods where the players were being paid enormous amounts of money. Just like today, leagues were going bankrupt, players were threatening unions and strikes. Cyclone Taylor, a big star of 100 years ago, at one point was the highest paid per game athlete in the world. So there were eras when there's been lots of competition among owners, and players have been paid a great deal of money, and then there's been periods where they've been like serfs. Gordie Howe working 2 jobs when he was the best player in the world.
And Toronto has quite a hockey history, and we all think that the history starts and stops with the Leafs.
Right.
And it doesn't, and I mean, that's your book, The Forgotten Leafs.
Well, this book, of course, is about hockey becoming a professional sport, and all of the changes that brought about to the game. And the fact is that although the Toronto Maple Leafs today are the wealthiest professional hockey club in the world, the fact is this was very controversial. Most people, I would say many people in Toronto, including powerful people, thought the whole idea of a professional athlete was something morally abhorrent. It's hard to relate to now, but they felt that paying an athlete was like prostitution, and it was not a respectable profession. And there were people who ran hockey in Toronto at the time. The Ontario Hockey Association fought for many, many years to block any kind of professionalism in the city. And
you make it clear right from the start of your book that there's always been that rivalry between Toronto and Montreal.
There always has been the rivalry between Toronto and Montreal, and Toronto's now the biggest city in Canada, but Montreal still has more cups, and we want the Leafs to rectify that, but they have a ways to go.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, it'd be funny, if people would stop and read the cup, though, if they'd read the cup, they'd realize that Kenora won the cup.
Yeah.
There's been a whole bunch of different cities that we would not expect to have won that cup. So it's an incredible history. Did you have trouble digging up everything on it?
You know, the challenge when you go back that far is that you're restricted largely, not exclusively, but largely to newspaper reports. You know, clubs didn't have financial records. There was no income tax. They didn't file the kinds of corporate reports you'd have today. So you don't have the records that you have today. You don't have, obviously, footage, television footage. Fortunately, there were many, many newspapers, and a lot of them reported things in great detail, before radio, before television.
But it wasn't always factual detail sometimes.
Well, but you have 5 or 6 accounts, so you can compare them. But, you actually had papers would run literally play-by-play summaries of the game, because that's how people got their information they read. And what's fascinating, going back, 1900, 1890s, in spite of the fact the country was young, communication was, pretty rudimentary compared to today, the fact is hockey fans across Canada followed the sport. They knew who all the big players were in every city, even if they'd never seen them play.
Would you do another one? Now that you've done this book. This how many years has it taken you?
Yeah, it took me, I say, 15 minutes a day for 9 years.
Yeah.
We'll have to see. We started on another project about the same time where we were looking at some of the early professional hockey in Alberta. And I may take that up someday, but right now I think I need a bit of a break. Hitting the deadlines in the last year or so is was a bit of pressure on top of the job. So I'm spending my spare time now doing a bit of music instead.
Yeah, we saw you last night. Not bad. And you looked really comfortable up there.
I was having fun. We were having fun. I got a great band, and they cover me up, so.
I mean, look at you. You're like a rock star. Speaking as what you do you get nervous sitting behind the keyboard?
You always get nervous when you're doing something a little different than usual, but I've done that a couple of times before, so it was maybe less nerve-wracking. We had a great crowd.
By the way, Lorraine's going to be here at the end of this week on Breakfast Television.
That's what I hear.
And a whole different...
Yeah, she has a whole range of important charities she supports, and she's going to be here talking about one of those.
Well, I love that you have taken time to support the Military Families charity. Could I get you to sign this for us? And what we're going to do is we're going to auction this off here on Breakfast Television later on. and we're going to raise some money, and all that money will go to the Military Families Fund as well.
There we are. Got it, guys? It's authentic.
Whenever you sign your name, people are always taking pictures, no matter what you're signing your name to. All right, Stephen J. Harper. A great game, The Forgotten Leafs and the Rise of Professional Hockey. It is on our website, by the way. If you go to Inside BT and then look under show notes, you can actually click to buy the book on Amazon. So it'd make a nice Christmas gift. It's actually, you know what? This is a really nice book as far as
they made it. Simon and Schuster did a great job of it. The production quality as an author, I can't complain about a thing. They just did a top-notch job. It's a really nice book.
By the way, and I know you probably had some say into the cover, but who did they choose for the cover?
The cover is actually, that's a good question, Kevin. The cover is the cover of the Toronto Blue Shirts of 1914, the first Toronto team to ever win the Stanley Cup, and for reasons that are explained later in the book, they are the only Toronto Stanley Cup winner whose banner is not hoisted in the Air Canada Centre. So hopefully someday the Leafs will see fit to correct that injustice.
Stephen Harper, thank you very much.
For having me.
I'll let you get back to running the country. It was nice you know what? It was very nice having you here just to talk about this book for a change. So it was nice.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity.
All right, I think this is his only. I think your only stop here, and we enjoy it. Thank you for stopping by Breakfast Television. Come back again.
Thank you. I will.
All right. Where are we going to go? We're going to take a break. We're going to be right back on Breakfast Television. It's 8:37 right now.